here we are. Lastly, we're going to talk about subphylum Vertebrata, class Mammalia, the mammals. There's about 5,000 species of mammals. Most large terrestrial animals are mammals, but most mammals are pretty small. There are 4 defining characteristics of mammals. Number 1, they all have hair, at least a little bit of hair or fur, long filaments of keratinized tissue that extend from hair follicles. Hair has a lot of uses for mammals. It can be used for insulation, so mammals can live in a lot colder climates than other organisms. It can match the background and be used as camouflage, and it can also be used for defense and sensation. The females of mammals all have mammary glands. These produce a high-calorie, high-fat milk that can be used to fuel the rapid growth of young. Mammals also have endothermy. They are endothermic, meaning they generate their own body heat and control their own body temperature. This does require a higher metabolic rate than reptiles or amphibians, but it also means that mammals can be active 24 hours out of the day. And they can also live in more extreme environments than reptiles or amphibians can. To fuel this increased metabolic rate, mammals have a 4-chambered heart, so their ventricles are completely divided like crocodiles and birds. And mammals also use the diaphragm for respiration, which is a muscular partition right underneath the lungs. By using the diaphragm, the lungs have lower pressure that sucks in oxygenated air, filling the lungs up. Number 4, all mammals have a placenta, which, well, actually most mammals have a placenta, most mammals, in which young can be carried internally. The placenta is a specialized organ that brings fetal and maternal blood into close contact so food, water, oxygen, waste can pass between the two. There are also some other smaller differences between mammals and other animals. Mammals have 1 jawbone as opposed to multiple, and they have 3 inner ear bones as opposed to just 1. So that is used to distinguish mammal fossils from other organisms. Mammals also have well-developed muscles that allow for chewing, and they have a well-developed nephron, which is the functional unit of the kidney. So those are just some fun facts about mammals. This is the placenta here. The umbilical cord is derived from the allantois. The chorion becomes a major part of the placental, and then we also have amniotic fluid, right? So placenta is very different from the egg that's laid in other animals, but the structures are derived from the same structures we find in the egg. There's also some important adaptations that we see pop up within the mammal lineage. Mammals often have specialized teeth that are adapted to the particular diet of a particular group of mammals. So I'll come back to this slide, but looking at this figure from your book, carnivores tend to have very sharp incisors and canines for ripping and tearing animal flesh. Carnivore is eating other animals, right? And the premolars and molars are also pretty sharp for tearing. Versus in herbivores like deer, right, we don't have any canines and very flat premolars and molars for clipping and grinding. Us humans are omnivores, so we eat both plant and animal matter, and we have a variety of teeth for chiseling, ripping, and grinding. Many mammals rely on the digestion of plants. Most mammals are herbivores, so they need adaptations in order to digest cellulose. Right? Cellulose is something that not a whole lot of animals can break down. Usually this takes place in the form of a mutualistic relationship with bacteria that can break down that cellulose. These can live either in the first of the 4 chambers in multiple chambered stomachs of giraffes, cows, and goats, or in the large intestine of mammals that don't have chambered stomachs, like horses or rabbits or elephants. Many mammals also have hooves and horns. These are structures made out of keratin. The hoof is a keratin pad on the toe of cows, sheep, horses, which protects and cushions the foot. Horns are structures made out of bone and keratin, which are attached firmly to the skull and not shed, unlike antlers, which are composed of bone and are shed. Finally, we have flying mammals, bats, which are the only mammals that are capable of powered flight. Their wing is a leathery membrane of skin and muscle that's stretched over 4 finger bones and then attaches to the side and to the leg. This allows these mammals to successfully exploit an untapped resource, which is night-flying insects. They're able to hear or use echolocation in the dark to locate these prey. So bats are rodents, but with this power of flight, this has allowed them to become the second largest order of mammals. Mammals have been around since 220 million years ago, within the time of the dinosaurs, but back then they were small, shrew-like nocturnal insectivores. Right? So not very impressive at all. But 65 million years ago, when dinosaurs, well, all the dinosaurs but the birds, went extinct, mammals survived, and that might have been due to the insulation provided by their fur. But at any rate, they took over, and at this point we have 3 groups of modern mammals: the monotremes, the marsupials, and the placental mammals. Monotremes are the closest relatives to first mammals. They have a lot of reptilian traits, they lay shelled eggs, and they have a cloaca, or a single opening for feces, urine, and reproduction. But they do have distinguishing mammalian traits as well. They have a single jawbone, they have hair or fur, and they have mammary glands. They actually don't have a nipple, so the milk leaks out and young have to lap it up from the fur, but the glands are there. There are only 3 living species of monotremes. We have the duck-billed platypus, which is native to Australia. It's an aquatic mammal that uses electroreceptors in its bill to help hunt within the water. And there's 2 species of echidna, one in Australia and one in New Guinea. That's this bottom creature right here. It has strong claws that it uses for burrowing and digging for insects. Marsupials. Major difference here is the pattern of embryonic development. Marsupials have an amnion, a chorion, and an yolk to nourish their young, but they don't have a shell. And the placenta forms mostly from the chorion here, giving rise to a very tiny hairless embryo that crawls out of that short-lived placenta after a few weeks into the marsupial pouch, where it continues its development, developing most of its characteristics. Most marsupials are isolated to Australia. They really diversified in Australia to fill ecological niches that placental mammals fill elsewhere. The only placental mammals in Australia are those introduced by humans, like, say, rabbits. So we have kangaroos, wombats, koalas, and a lot of other marsupials there too. In North America, our only marsupial is the possum, right, which we're probably all familiar with down here. Placental mammals include most mammals. This is very diverse, ranging from the smallest mammal, the pygmy shrew, to the largest mammal, the blue whale. Placental mammals are distinguished by forming a true placenta that nourishes the embryo throughout its development within the uterus of the female. The chorion and the allantois form fetal and maternal tissues with lots of blood vessels, high vascularization for efficient exchange between mother and fetus. The young are able to undergo a considerable period of development here before they are born. So this concludes our Deuterostomes, right? We actually also have a table here of the major orders of placental mammals, with rodents being by far the largest, right? Bats forming a pretty large order as well.